This is Corinna Mendis, and you're watching the TV Writer Podcast.
Hosted by Gray Jones, the TV Writer Podcast is brought to you by Script Magazine and ScriptMag.com, the leading source for script writing information in print and on the web. This is Gray, and I'm here with independent TV writer and producer Corinna Mendis. How are you doing, Corinna?
I'm great. How are you, Gray?
Doing very well, thanks. And I should mention this is podcast 73, and we didn't have an intro, so I would mention that you can get lots of other podcasts at tvwriterpodcast.com. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Gray Jones as my handle. And do you have a Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's Corinna Mendis.
Corinna Mendis. Very easy. Okay.
Yeah, very easy.
So I do appreciate you coming on, and there's definitely when people are starting out, when they want to break in, there's some questions they have, and often we get into this because we have a passion for creating, and it used to be back in my ancient days that the only way you could break in was going to film school.
Right.
And film schools were not even as good back then as they are now. That film schools have gotten a lot better over the years. But at the same time, there's a lot more resources now than there were when I went to film school 20 years ago.
Sure.
And so just like I talked to Ryan Koo, who runs nofilmschool.com, and a few of the people I've interviewed, like Bill Martell, definitely advocates shooting your own pilot. Got examples like our popular Rob Thomas right now, who created Veronica Mars, created Party Down. Party Down was actually shot as a spec pilot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so there are lots of examples like this, and you actually not only wrote your own pilot, you shot it. So we're going to hear about that, and I'm sure lots of people are going to love hearing your perspective, because you probably didn't have the Veronica Mars crew and a pile of money like Rob Thomas had, but you did get it shot, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a process. When I originally wrote Not in My Neighborhood, I didn't intend to produce it right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a homeless shelter where I used to work. You know, growing up, I always wanted to get into the business. I wanted to be an actress, and my parents never wanted me to do that. You know, what do you mean you want to be an actress? There's no money in it. You'll never get anywhere, you know. So I kind of pursued other things. I went to school for counseling and medicine. I work as a physician assistant right now. But during my counseling internship, I worked in a men's homeless shelter. And I did that for about 10 years. And I always thought, you know, this would make a great comedy series. Not knowing anything about writing or any, you know, I was a writer, but I never wrote an actual TV script or anything like that. So I bought the books. Every time I found something interesting, just start jotting it down, you know, any kind of crazy situation that happened at the shelter, I'd write about it. I started taking a TV writing class online with Larry Brody at tvwriter.com. So he kind of helped me along the way. There were many versions of the scripts from drama, you know, an hour-long drama, half-hour comedy. You know, and I finally went with the comedy because the subject material can be kind of, you know, a little, I guess, dark, you know. So I felt like if I, you know, added some laughter, it would kind of make the subject matter a little bit more tolerable and easier to handle, you know. But so after I wrote the script, I started meeting with different directors and producers that I had met through through networking, you know, like on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like this. And you know, everyone wanted to change it in some way, and I know that's par for the course. I'm totally open to changing it. But it was just, you know, I felt like for my first project, I kind of wanted to just I had my own creative vision, and I kind of wanted to go with that. And I wanted to find people who would kind of support that vision, you know? So after meeting with many different producers and directors, I kind of said, you know what? I think I could do this on my own. So I saved up some money and decided to shoot it. Got, the casting director, hired actors, and we actually shot at the homeless shelter where I used to work.
Which was an experience in itself.
Which was definitely an experience in of itself, because, the first day of shooting, the first scene was like these irate picketers outside the shelter, like, we don't want a shelter in our town, and all the guys at the shelter thought we were real, and they were people were like, the train station's right next to the shelter, so everyone's staring at us like, oh my gosh, what's going on, so I had to kind of do damage control with the guests at the shelter, and while at the same time, making sure everything was running on smoothly. And
now I should mention you are in Long Island, New York.
I am in Long Island, New York. Yeah, I'm in a town called Port Jefferson, which is about 2 hours by train from Manhattan. So the shelter is in a town. It's kind of like a upper middle class neighborhood, where when the shelter first opened, no one really wanted it here. Hence the title, Not in My Neighborhood. But now that it's been here for 20 years, it's really done a lot for the community. I mean, granted, we've brought a lot of people in from Manhattan, and there are a lot of people that don't stay at the shelter who actually, there are people that actually live in the woods, like in the surrounding woods of the shelter, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So, there's a whole subculture of people who choose to remain homeless. And they might go to the shelter for a shower or some food or to make a phone call or something. But there are people that actually choose to live on the streets or live in what we call them tent villages now, that we have like, you can go to certain woods in Long Island and there will be like, literally a village of homeless people with, living in tents and stuff. Yeah,
we've had the same kind of thing in Toronto, which I know Toronto has winters that are fairly similar to New York. So I don't know how they make it through the winter.
Yeah. Well, especially with the blizzard we had, whenever that was, about a month ago, at that point, there's, emergency housing is there to house these people, and they have to house them. It doesn't matter where they put them. They have to find a place for them, But sometimes, I mean, some people won't use those resources. Some people won't call, and they'll just try and make it through. And a lot of them have actually, survived through the storms and have been okay. They're true survivors.
Yeah. So moving on. So you decided to write it about this. Your experience, and you also decided to shoot there. Now, did you end up shooting the entire thing there still, just dealing with those concerns, or did you end up shooting elsewhere?
No, we ended up shooting at the shelter. Like I said, the first day was kind of touchy. I had to do some counseling with the guests there to kind of reassure them that this is like it's loosely based on reality. I don't hate you, like they were like, you hate us. What are you doing? But by the third day, it was a 3-day shoot. By the third day, they were actually begging us to stay because they started realizing like, oh, wow, like the conversations that you guys are having, they were watching us film, and like, this is so true. This happens all the time. And, they wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be in it. And, that I actually have been interviewing some of them just as on my own to maybe do like a documentary type thing. But yeah, so by the end, they actually were okay with us being there. They wanted us. They were sad to see us go.
And well, I do have to admit, I watched the trailer for the pilot, and I was pretty impressed. And I say that because I've watched a lot of stuff on the internet, budding producers and short filmmakers, and you definitely have a level of quality that one wouldn't expect for your first time out of the gate.
Well, thank you, Gray. I appreciate that.
Everything from the shooting to the sound, especially, is one of the biggest things that hurts in when people start out. So was that from your own experience, or you got people involved that helped with that?
To help. the person that I was taking classes from, and still take classes from, Larry Brody, had suggested I contact Barry Gribble, who actually was one of the directors. Barry Gribble and Kevin Good, who was the DP as well.
Yeah.
So the two of them really, you know, I saw a lot of their work. They've done a bunch of really good pilots, really cool stuff. And in speaking with them, you know, they were really interested, and they really kind of like, you know, supported my vision. They were there, and to kind of enhance what I was thinking, you know, in my head. So they really did a lot to help me with this. I owe a lot to them. You know, I've learned a lot from them, and you know, in the whole process. So it wasn't. And
in post-production, was that something that you also did you try to do it yourself, or did you get people involved in that?
Yeah, Barry and Kevin helped with that, definitely, the editing and everything. I'm still kind of learning, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, good on you, because I know a lot of people that I have been in contact with. I appreciate the fact that they want to do it by themselves, but they don't realize that one of the things that makes good content is when you don't try to wear a dozen hats yourself.
Yeah.
It just because it's your vision doesn't mean that you don't get a camera guy who is really good as a camera guy. And he's not a director, he's not a writer, he's not an editor, but he's a great camera guy. It's I know, foolish to think that I'm good at everything.
Right.
And even if you are good at everything, when you get involved in a production, you can't be the director and the cameraman and the sound person all at the same time.
It's physically impossible. I mean, to do everything all at once, you know. And I think when you think of something and you idealize something, you're like, no, I can do everything. But then when you're actually doing it, it's really, you know, it's a humbling experience, I think, to realize something like that you know, you have to ask for help and have people help you with it, you know. And I've really, I mean, from the beginning, I've been open to anything, any suggestions, and anything anyone, any kind of changes that they want to make, you know, as long as it supports the story, you know. So that's what was great about working with Barry and Kevin, because they really, you know, everything, like when the three of us would collaborate, I mean, it was just, we would enhance each other's vision, you know. So.
And now, did you find it was? Now you mentioned that you paid the actors.
I did.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking what the budget for it was?
That's okay. It was very low budget. I probably spent, well, I paid the actors $100 a day. So the whole entire project ran me about $25,000.
And that was for 22-minute final. Final length. Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah, I probably, you know, looking back, it could have been less, but you know, I wanted to make sure everything was, you know, good. I wanted to have good food to feed everybody, you know, to be able to have a place for everyone to stay, and you know, a lot of the actors came in from Manhattan, so.
Yeah, well, and I think it's really good for people to hear. Just because you can pick up $1,000 camera and maybe a $200 mic doesn't mean that becomes your entire budget for a short film or for a pilot. You know, the more money you put in, the more you're going to get out of it.
Right, if you can.
You know, if you can.
I was lucky enough to have been able to save that amount, you know, and get help from Dad too, of course. You know.
Yeah. And so tell me about when you did shoot it. What were you thinking was going to be your delivery, your distribution of it?
It's funny because I really wasn't thinking about that at the time. When I was shooting it, that's what I was focused on. I was like, I just want to shoot a good pilot, which really conveys the story that I want to portray, you know. But I wasn't thinking distribution, you know. Like from the beginning, I'm just kind of learning this as I go along, you know. Like I said, like when I first wrote it, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to produce this, you know. When I was producing it, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to have to like get a publicist and do like a press release and all this stuff, you know. But you know, in my mind, I guess what I was thinking was that it would it would be for cable television. I'd like to pitch it to cable networks, like HBO, Showtime, IFC, FX even, networks like that,
And have you actually released the entire pilot online?
I have it on YouTube right now.
The entire pilot?
The entire pilot, yeah, is on YouTube. If you put, I can send you the link,
sure.
So have people click on it. So.
Yeah, and have you put it into any film festivals or aired it anywhere like that?
I've been entering film festivals, so I haven't heard back from anybody yet. So it's like, again, like I kind of had to, I didn't save money for that part, for the distribution part. So I just kind of lately have been, I saved up some more money so I could enter it. I go out a box and enter it in certain, local festivals here on Long Island. Maybe the Stony Brook Film Festival, I'd like to put it in. Maybe Garden State in New Jersey. Local stuff around here. So that's where I'm at right now with that.
Yeah. Well, definitely, there's some great resources out there for marketing films, and some that I've read recently have had some really creative ideas about tie-ins. Like, say, for instance, any time you can tie in with an organization. This is a shelter, so finding other shelters that might want to screen the pilot and invite media to attend that, and that gets the word out about your thing. It's those tie-ins, from what I've heard, that can really start the viral thing going.
Right. Just to kind of get the ball rolling, kind of get it to spread.
And of course, it is a lot of work. I mean, it's leg work, phone calls. It's sometimes you actually have to go to these places, but
it's like anything. Anything is work, right? So if you have a passion for something, I think it's just you make the time for it, you do it. I had entered it into the best shorts competition. It's not really short; it's a pilot, but I got an award in the best shorts competition, which is, and the script itself has won a few different awards. I've gotten to the finals of a lot of the contests that I've entered and stuff like that.
Great.
It's received some accolades, which is great, considering it's the first project ever,
Yeah. Well, and every one you get becomes part of the kit that you can then the next one you go to, you say it won this, and this. And you gradually build on that. But now you blogged about this at tvwriter.com, not to be confused with tvwriterpodcast.com. Larry Brody's got an excellent book, and I urge people to read his book. But you blogged about it, and one of the things you mentioned was that this was an expression of the idea of not going to film school, that you don't have to go to film school. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think that with anything, there's certain things that you learn when you go to school, and then there are certain things that you learn when you're out there on the job. I mean, I consider myself a professional student. I have my bachelor's in psychology. I have my master's in counseling. I'm a massage therapist. I work as a PA now, physician assistant. And I think that a lot of the stuff you learn in school, you have to learn it. It's a backbone, but you really don't learn things until it's hands-on. You're out there, you're doing it. And I realized, even with my friends that were helping me with Not in My Neighborhood, with the project, who are in film school, they were even saying, this is stuff that we don't learn. It's just the hands-on experience of the day. How to organize things, how to produce something, how to put things together to make it happen, really. I think it's just one of those things you have to do, instead of sitting in a classroom and reading about it, That's not to say, I wish I went now looking back, I kind of wish I went to film school, but, and I still can, but I think there's so many other resources online that you don't necessarily have to go and get like a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree. There's so many classes you can take online and webinars and all sorts of things that you can, that are there to help you,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've said this on the podcast a few times. I'm not knocking film schools, but I spent about $60,000 on my time at film school, and that was with a lot cheaper tuition 20 years ago. And sure, I had a couple of great films that came out of that. One of them won awards in several countries, and that was great. I built a lot of great relationships, but $60,000 can buy a lot of stuff.
Sure.
If I were to start that now, I would probably buy about $10,000 worth of equipment. I'd probably buy about $1,000 or $2,000 worth of books, and maybe another $1,000 or $2,000 worth of DVD training and webinars and things like that.
Yeah.
And then the rest, start making stuff.
Do it. Yeah.
And because a lot of what you get at film school is the relationships, but I'm sure you gained some relationships going through this production experience.
Oh, definitely. And then even, taking the classes online, taking Larry Brody's class. Right now I'm taking Jennifer Grisanti's class, her 10-week seminar that she has. I went to the TV Writer Summit in LA. All of this stuff is just a good way of networking. And like you said, you really don't have to go and sit in a classroom and, yes, you can, it's good networking to do that, but it's not necessary. There's so many other outlets now, and especially with the internet now, there's so many different outlets like Facebook and Twitter and all sorts. The social media it's just exploding right now, where you can meet people. I mean, look at us, we're talking in Canada, and I'm in New York. So.
Yeah. Well, most of the interviews that I get on the podcast now have come through Twitter. Just connecting with people on Twitter, and then there's an interview happening. Right. So what do you now at the end of this process, or the end of one part of the process, what do you feel that doing this pilot has done for you?
It's definitely helped me to become a better writer. A better TV writer. Not that I ideally I would like to become a television writer, but I feel that, going through the characters, breaking down the characters and their arcs and the storylines and the obstacles and everything that you need to make a good script and tell a good story, I feel like actually going through the process of shooting my pilot has taught me how to do that, So now when I go and I write another pilot, it's easy, it just flows better, and also some spec scripts. Like I have a Nurse Jackie spec script, I have an anger management spec script. Doing that now, it just makes the process a little bit easier,
And I have to ask, what made you choose the form of 22-minute pilot? I mean, did you ever think about doing it as webisodes? Did you ever think about doing it as, say, for instance, a shorter, like a short film?
Definitely. I definitely have. I thought about doing, maybe 4 minutes, like a 4-minute webisode or something. I've gone through all the different kinds, like hour drama, half-hour comedy. I did the 22-minute because that seems to fit more into what a half-hour pilot. That's generally what the range is for a half-hour pilot on network TV. There's actually 2 scenes that are in the script that aren't in the shooting version of the pilot. So this particular pilot can be 30 minutes. So that's why I was thinking more along the lines of like an HBO or Showtime. But I'm not excluding the idea of doing a web series. I did think about it.
And now having gone through this experience, is your goal to do this kind of thing again? Do you want to shoot more? Do you want to produce more? Or is this something that you would say, it was a great experience, I've learned a lot, now I'm just going to write?
No, I actually, now that I've done it, I think I have the bug. And it's definitely been a catalyst to me writing a lot more. But I realized that I loved producing it. So I have a, in networking and making contacts, I have a friend who is a manager, and he's kind of helping me along the way. And he has hooked me up with another writer and director, and I'm going to be producing a short film in May. It's called Little Egg. So I think it'll be, even though it's not what I wrote, I think doing what I did with my pilot it's just going to give me, it's going to be that much easier, I guess, to I'm sorry. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No, just having the experience of that, is making me I'm looking forward to having the experience to film a short film now,
Very, very cool. And so what advice would you have if somebody has their own piece, whether it be a pilot or a short film, and they're interested in shooting it? What have you learned that you could give them a shortcut, and maybe not make the same mistakes, or some things that you learned that they should do? What advice would you have to give?
Well, I would say, stick to your guns, work at it every day, have a clear vision of what you want, write it down, and just keep finding the people that you'll be able to, that will be able to support your vision. If I were to shoot another episode now of Not in My Neighborhood, I would probably shoot it again in the shelter, but I don't think I would have had the residents staying there. I would have said, maybe we can have these guys leave for the day or something, because it was over the weekend, so they were all there just kind of hanging out. And but I it's a lot of work, it's discouraging, but I think if you have a clear vision and a goal of what you want to do, I think I just keep at it every day. Every day do something to keep it going, because it could get to a point where you get discouraged and feel like, what am I doing? What's the point of all this? But but once you do it, it's that I think as an artist and a creative person, it's fulfilling once you see the final product.
And I should ask, when you did gather this crew together, how did you connect with people? Like, did you already know the camera person, the director? Did you already know all these people through other things you did? And if so, how did you meet these people? And how did you do the casting? That kind of thing.
Yeah, before I had met Barry and Kevin, I had met a bunch of other directors through friends. I know a few friends who were in the industry already. A good friend of mine is a makeup artist, a celebrity makeup artist. She actually did the makeup for my show. Another friend's a TV editor. Another friend's an agent. So, that's how I met everybody. Kevin I met through Larry Brody. And then with them, that's how we met a casting director. Barry ended up knowing a casting director. And then she found the actors, which were all from Manhattan.
I guess it helps to be in New York area.
New York, yeah. Because that's the other thing, to do something like this, do you live in LA or do you live in New York? So to LA, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. Well, and so long term, what are you thinking? Like, are you thinking you would like to, like, say, for instance, you get some interest with this, are you open to moving to LA? Is that what you'd like to do?
Yeah, if there's, if there is interest and someone wants to pick it up, and yeah, I would do it. I would move out there, definitely. I mean, there's a thought to go out because working in medicine, you know, there's hospitals out there too, so I could easily go out and, you know, work in a hospital there and live out there. You know, I mean, my heart's in New York. I'm a New Yorker. You know, I love it here, but I'm open to anything. You know, and I think that's another thing. You know, some advice to give is to be open and to, you know, everyone's going to have an opinion. Everyone's going to tell you their own idea of how they think it should be or what they think it should be. And that's okay. You know, everyone's, you know, I think it's, to be a writer, you have to take criticism, you know, you have to be able to listen to what people have to say and, you know, and still stick to your guns. And, you know, you could take a piece of advice from what they say or not, you know, just always have that clear vision of what you want, you know. Very
cool. Well, that actually sounds like a great place to end up. So, and yeah, you know what? What I really respect about you is there's a lot of people who become career students, and I could see that perhaps a little bit of that in you. I mean, most people stop at 2 or 3 degrees, and you got 4. Yeah. But the thing is, you in this, you were not a career student. You actually got something made. And so there's something to be said for closing the books at some point and actually going out and doing it. Yeah. So good on you.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and it's been a very interesting conversation. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about doing the same kind of thing. We got summer coming, production season, and hopefully there will be other people who have the inspiration from this to say, well, maybe I could shoot my own pilot.
Definitely. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this interview. It was great talking with you. And anytime, if anyone has any questions that they want to ask me, I'm open, you know.
Yep. And on Twitter at Corinna Mendis.
Yep. And I'm on Facebook as well. Corinna Louise Mendis. So
very cool. Oh, and make sure I'll put the link for Not My Neighborhood on the podcast page. So make sure that you do watch the pilot too.
Perfect.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks so much again, and best of luck to you. And I hope we see Not My Neighborhood in lots of film festivals coming up this summer.
Me too. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Okay. Bye-bye. Hosted by Gray Jones, the TV Writer Podcast is brought to you by Script Magazine and ScriptMag.com, the leading source for script writing information in print and on the web.